the notion that the law, the nobility of the law, and business savvy, making money from law practice, are mutually exclusive is outdated, completely outdated.
What can we do to re-engineer our mindsets? And then what policies or regulations can we put in place?
Perhaps a bigger question we could also look at is how well trained, how well adapted are lawyers in a position to even spot the opportunities that comes with running law as a business.
Most law firms don't even have a formula for charging. They just plug figures in the air without even asking themselves, what will it cost me to deliver on this assignment? To then ask yourself whether at the end of the day you make profit. Most law firms just pay their colleagues, plug a figure from there and pay the colleague without asking themselves, how will these monies come?
Because it's a big deal. You know, when I think it was Toyin that was talking earlier on, or the other moderator, she said, you went through law school, you forgot to mention, and you passed that terrible exam. I will never stop talking about that terrible exam. Any exam that needs an ambulance parked beside the exam hall, the examiner itself knows it's a terrible exam, and you all passed it.
If you want to clap very well, please.
All right, moving on quickly to our next panel session. Are we ready? Are we ready for our next panel session, please? Okay, so this woman is a powerhouse litigator, arbitration expert, and legal trailblazer. As a partner and co-head of litigation and dispute resolution at African Law Practice NG & Co., she dominates domestic and international commercial arbitration, representing top-tier clients across Nigerian courts. She was the former general counsel to the governor of Lagos State. Please put your hands together. All right. She was the former general counsel to the governor of Lagos State between 2011 and 2015. Please put your hands together. Fellow Chartered Institute of Arbitrators UK and accredited CEDR mediator. Don't do that. Louder. She is a board member of Lagos Court of Arbitration, LCA, and a LCIA member. You people should clap. She's an ex-senior special assistant on Justice Sector Reform, Lagos State. Active in Nigerian Bar Association, IBA, ICCA, Abeta Women and more. Celebrates now. She knows, she understands the profession. And beyond the courtroom, she's a first advocate for gender equality, mentorship, and legal empowerment. She's a dynamic speaker, mentor, and leader. And she's redefining excellence in law. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. And as I celebrate and break up on stage, Mrs. Onyikonsola Badejo Okonsoya. Celebrate. The delectable, beautiful, excellent. Celebrate. Make him more robust. And I dare say that she's a picture of possibility for women. Because for those of us that we are worried, if I marry, if I do not marry, and I'm glad that when that conversation came up, she was able to speak to it. So if you're wondering, what if I have children? No, but look at her, she's very fine. No. Let that beauty distract you a little bit. But she has done it and you can do it. So once again, please celebrate. You're welcome, ma'am. You look very lovely. Natural beauty from the... please celebrate. Okay. So he is the managing partner at Aidan Partners, Mr. Kunle Ajagbe. Is he in the room? Please celebrate. He's been with us at the earlier hours of this conference. Thank you, sir. Thank you for standing with us and for your support. It's very massive. We celebrate. Please, once again, please celebrate Mr. Kunle Ajagbe. Thank you. And of course, we have, he's the chairman of National Bar Association, or Nigerian Bar Association. He is Mr. Olabisi Makonjola. Please celebrate as he comes forward. Celebrate now. He's our chairman. No. Raise him, raise him, raise him, raise him, raise him for the chairman. Sir, you are very welcome. You're very welcome, sir. We celebrate you, sir. Your support and your presence is very, very appreciated. Thank you. And to moderate this session, ladies and gentlemen, you've seen her all through today, but you see her yet again. Please, where's BA? Apologies. Apologies. The visionary, the powerful, the energetic, delectable, one-woman army. Ladies and gentlemen, Olubusola Ajala. Celebrate, celebrate, celebrate. And today is also her birthday. Can we quickly say happy birthday, Olubusola? Olubusola, over to you. Let's focus on the panel session. We'll look at cake later. Once again, please celebrate our panelists and our moderator.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. The energy in the room is low.
It should not
What's
drop.
happening?
Raise them, raise them, raise them, raise them.
Okay. Is your mic working? Okay, so this panel session is titled The Business of Law, right? So, and I need to make some, by the way, everybody, by the way, please, can we, I would like to respectfully and beautifully acknowledge the presence of the second Vice President, MBA National, Mrs. Bola Tumi Anima Shao. Thank you very much, ma. Thank you very much, ma. Thank you for your support. We appreciate your presence. Eshema. Okay, so this panel session is on the business of law. And frankly speaking, I wanted to have just a heart-to-heart chat with Mrs. B, like we fondly call her. Because when I see people who are stakeholders and decision makers, I like to speak with them because this work of business of law, it's not something easy. And if we're thinking of, reshaping our ecosystem and ensuring that lawyers, we get called to bar, lawyers get called to bar, but they do not exit, law practice. They don't leave the legal community and say, there's no money, I'm going elsewhere. We need to start having very, very important conversations, and we need to be very, very strategic and intentional about it. And which is also one of the reasons behind the Business of Law documentary that we are doing. Because for me, the goal of all of these things we are doing, Strictly Law Business, Business of Law Conference and everything, is to ensure that we empower ourselves. Like you look at the banking industry, Soludo came and did a lot of interesting things and transformed the banking sector. But what are we doing within our own community to ensure that it's transformed? And that, this story of the law, but there's no money in the pocket, you can't even, it has to change, it has to change. So what can we do, and how can we have stakeholders in the room have this conversation? But then I also saw some two powerful men, and I just tried to hijack them to say, come and join us in this conversation. And Mr. Chairman is saying that this is set up. I said, you are capable, Abi, so you can do it. So this conversation is primarily about business of law and what can we do, especially with respect to, maybe amending or reviewing some of our policies, and then also in terms of, a review of our legal education curriculum. But the first question I would like to ask us, and I really want to thank you, Mrs. B, for this honor and, just agreeing to be on this panel and be part of our conference. And you came in very early, and we are still here till now. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'd like to say that we should look out for Mrs. B. I won't say more than that. So, I want to ask us, and this question is to everyone, do you really think or believe that law is a business? I know that we understand or agree that, there's law practice, but do we really think or believe that law is a business? Because I think if we don't have that, if we don't believe it, then it may be very difficult, for us to be, this exercise may just be, what are you talking about, business of law? This is not a business. We're just, we're supposed to be ministers in the temple of justice, and that's all there is to it. But do you really believe that law practice or the law is a business? I'd like to start with you, Mrs. B.
Thank you very much, Busola. And thank you, everyone, for being here till now. It's a public holiday, I know, but we all know what we do with our public holidays. And it's certainly not sitting down in a room listening to people talk, except you have an intentionality about you. I love that word, intentional. So thank you for being intentional. Thank you for being here. Do I really believe that law is a business? In fact, I think the question to ask is, do I believe that law is not a business? Because I think these days we all understand, I'm not sure that anybody's in any doubt anymore, that law practice is business because it's a means of livelihood and we have to make a living from it. If we're going to make a living from it, then it has to be run according to the principles that entrepreneurs and profitable entities deploy. The notion that the law, the nobility of the law, and business savvy, making money from law practice, are mutually exclusive is outdated, completely outdated. As a matter of fact, I'm not even sure it was ever in fashion because we've always known successful lawyers. And they were not successful because they were not intentional about the way they went about making profit from the law. Back in the day, the more successful you got on account of the reputation that you had established, you could just pick a figure out of the sky, depending on what side of bed you woke up on, and decide this is what I'm charging. It didn't have anything to do with what I need, what I need to put back into the business, and so on and so forth. It was just, okay, this is what I feel like charging, I charge. It worked for some, didn't work for others. I think law is a business. I think we all recognize that law is a business. I think the major problem, and it stems from the topic that you've chosen, is how to marry the norms, cultures, customs, strictures that the law imposes with going out there and making money the way we understand it in a modern day entrepreneurial setting. I think I'll stop there for now so that I give Mr. Jagbe and Mr. Chair a chance to weigh in as well.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, you can clap for me.
Yes, please. Yes, please. If you want to clap, clap very well, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'll start this way by giving a short answer, and then I'll try and elaborate. Yes, law is a business. So that's the short answer to you. But I think that on reflection, what perhaps may have prompted that question in the first place, which, flowing from what Mrs. B said, shouldn't really be a point we can argue about, is what I see as the slowness of our profession to adopt and embrace that realization. What I mean by this is that from the law school, where all of us were baked, as it were, some years ago, maybe some decades ago, the impression lawyers were given was that all you needed to do was to get called, and the next day you open an office and clients will troop into your office. Now, we may find this incredible to believe, but that was the impression that was given. In other words, lawyers historically in Nigeria were not trained to think like entrepreneurs. We solved the problems of entrepreneurs quite all right, but we were not trained. So we didn't have that orientation. And it's not different from the orientation that doctors were historically trained with. You were not trained to think like a businessman. So what has changed? Well, the world has changed. I think that's a very simple way of putting it. The world has changed. Client preferences have changed. Technology has changed. So it's impossible for lawyers to stand outside that ecosystem of change that is all around us. Now, if you think this is all heady stuff, for most law firms, and perhaps for most lawyers now, it is inconceivable that you will not have basic keyboard skills. It's inconceivable. It wasn't always the case. So let's not assume that because it seems to be the currency at the moment, it has always been so. So a combination of factors have led us to where we are now. So perhaps a bigger question we could also look at is, how well trained, how well adapted are lawyers in a position to even spot the opportunities that comes with running law as a business? I'm trying not to sound boring or too serious, so please don't think that it's very academic stuff. It's practical reality. There are many questions, there are many answers, and behind all of it, there lies opportunities, and as some panelists have also said, there lies some threats as well. So it's all a feature of how well positioned are you to take advantage of the fact that this legal practice that we are all involved in is a business, and it's open for everybody who is willing and daring to take advantage of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Over to you, Chairman.
Okay, so let me begin by saying that it's a huge privilege to share this stage, particularly with Mrs. B. About 2 weeks ago, Lagos branch made history by electing the first ever female chairman.
Yes, yes.
In the room. And so watch out for females. I mean, as you said, watch out for Mrs. B. So I know that just as, Lagos branch was bold enough to give Mrs. B a chance, to give Uchenna a chance, I do believe that other lawyers, who are in the room and who are not here, to be bold enough to, give other women a chance to lead.
Absolutely.
So let me start from there. But I think to your question, I don't think anybody here would disagree with you. And I think we saw that during COVID. Most law firms that didn't see law as a business died during COVID. Prior to COVID, I remember that when you filed, for those people who do litigation, when you filed an application for virtual hearing, defendants would oppose it, saying that there were no facilities to cater for virtual hearing. COVID came, and some of us who were not treating law as a business, who just treated law as a pastime, couldn't cope, and they went into, extinction. So, of course, law is a business. And beyond that, I'd like to paint a more graphic picture. See law practice as an elephant. And imagine when you position 4 blind men, and you put them before an elephant, and you put them at different parts of the elephant, and you tell them to describe what they could touch. Of course, each of those blind men would, the man who would touch the tusk would describe the elephant as some, solid object. The man who would touch the tail would say, oh, it seems to be a very large snake. But the man who would touch the feet would say, oh, this looks like a very big animal. So it depends on where you find yourself. And I know that the majority of those in the room may be aspiring lawyers, but it's at times like this that we should begin to create that mentality, that orientation, to be deliberate, to see law as a business. Some of our colleagues, even till today, do not see law as a business. They mix up their personal funds with the office funds. And you can conduct a survey today. Most law firms do it. Most law firms don't even have a formula for charging. They just pluck figures in the air without even asking themselves, what will it cost me to deliver on this assignment? To then ask yourself whether, at the end of the day, you make profit. Most law firms just pay their colleagues, pluck a figure from there and pay the colleague, without asking themselves, how would these monies come? Do you draw up a budget in December for your spendings for the year that's coming? So it is those law firms, and the difference is there, we can see it. So we all want to work at ALP, want to work for Mr. Jabi, want to work for Olaniwa Ajayi, but some people were deliberate in seeing law as a business, while some just saw law as a pastime. And that's what you find today. So, I mean, nobody would say and tell you that law is not a business. If you hold that view, then probably you are in the medieval times. So, yes, let's see law as a business. And let us, do those things that businessmen do. And let's stop, just acting impulsively. And let's see ourselves more as professionals and not as, we're not NURTW, we're lawyers. I'll end it at that.
Thank you very much. Please, if you want to clap, clap. Okay, so I needed to ask that question, not because I'm not confident that they see law as a business, but because I am going somewhere. Now that we all agree that law is a business and that we need to start carrying on our practice that way, why is the ecosystem, and like you said, that some people are not, carrying on their practice that way, they're just doing it as it comes, mixing, some people are even mixing clients' money with, their own personal funds and all of that. I think recently a lawyer was maybe suspended by the LPDC, for maybe misappropriation, I can't remember. So my question now is, what can we begin to do? Because the way, and maybe that's the passion that is driving, SLB, not just the passion, but that's drive to see that it's a collective, it's a common purse, right? So I know that there's some people who are like the Olaniwa Ajayis and all of that, they are having it really good, right? But how can it be, am I sure? Okay. We have the statistics, but how can we ensure that it's not just one, maybe the top law firms, the abouts of this world, but how can we also see that, it also cascades to every member, right? Of course, Bible says the poor you always have amongst you, right? We can't take away that fact. But again, what can we do to ensure that at least, majority of us are prospering? Because so what can we do in terms of, decisions we can take, mindsets that can also be inculcated? Because one of the big issues for me is the fact that, yes, the RPC has been reviewed, but that mindset of that old RPC is still, some people are still locked in that mindset. They can't get out of it. And so when they see some people, sharing content on social media, just trying to talk, educate, the people, and then that's where you're able to, attract clients to yourself. Even some senior lawyers and even younger lawyers will say, that's against RPC. So what can we do to re-engineer our mindset? And then what policies or regulations can we put in place?
For me, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. So, Busola has asked so many questions in one.
I'm sorry.
And I have so many answers in my head. So you're going to give me, just allow me, if I'm rambling, just try and pick out the things I say. So the first, I'm going to start from one of your last comments. The poor shall always be amongst us. It's too late. You're a lawyer now.
Okay.
It's too late. Too late. Yes, you can clap because it's a big deal. When I think it was Toyin that was talking earlier on, or the other moderator, she said, you went through law school, she forgot to mention, and you passed that terrible exam. I will never stop talking about that terrible exam. Any exam that needs an ambulance parked beside the exam hall, the examiner herself knows it's a terrible exam. And you all passed it. Some of you are about to go into it. And you know what? If you have any sense of trepidation, just look around you. The people sitting next to you passed it. We're all here. And once you passed it, once you got called to the bar, once you heard put on your wig. It's too late to be poor. So that's one. What can we do? We're already doing it. First of all, everybody here is here. You could be anywhere else. You could be in bed watching Netflix. You could be anywhere else. But you are here. Why? Because we all recognize somehow that law is indeed a business. And those of us who don't really know how to connect the law practice with business, we're here to learn it. So here we are at Strictly Law Business of Law Conference in its 7th edition, 7 being the number of perfection. Even you, Busola, you're not standing still. In your 7th year, you now have Law Demi. You're becoming a Texas. There's so many other things that we've just coined our own song. I've decided to be a lawyer. By the way, I'm going to take that song further than you ever will. Just so you know. Just so you know, I'm dubbing it. And when you see it happening on the airwaves, you understand. But to be serious, I want to recommend 2 books. The Richest Man in Babylon. The Richest Man in Babylon, George Clason. And then Think and Grow Rich. Essential reading. That one is by Napoleon Hill. They are both very easy to read books. And honestly, if somebody had pointed out this to me at a much younger age, I'd probably be a multi-billionaire by now. I'm not poor, but I would like more. And I would probably have more now. Why? Because those books teach you the principles that you need to go personal wealth and also business wealth. Now, to the RPC, everything is evolving. You know, somebody, I think it was Folashade Ali, when she was making her keynote address, she said, you know, when people think of innovation, they think of tech things, it's all techie. No. Innovation is just simply thinking of ways in which to do something that we've always done better and more efficiently. And that's why I like the topic, Think and Grow Rich. When you read the book, it will help you to think of all sorts of ways in which you can grow rich. So innovation, for example, RPC says, don't visit a client in their office. There were reasons for that, and there were good reasons. But it doesn't often work in this day and age. And yet, as lawyers, we're guided by the rules and regulations that bind the profession. And so we don't want to run afoul of the rules. But who said you can't meet with your clients on Zoom? Who said you can't set up a Zoom meeting? He's in his office, you're in yours, and you're having a discussion. You haven't violated any rule of professional conduct. You haven't gone physically to the office, but then you've avoided the stress of, the client has avoided the stress of coming to you, and that stress could mean the difference between you being that client's lawyer and another person, because someone else might not feel as bound as they should. So there are all sorts of things that we can do to innovate and still remain within the bounds of practice. Now, as far as making money is concerned, I don't know why we got this notion that business savvy or making money from law practice is mutually exclusive from practicing law the way it should be practiced. Even people who are rooted and steeped in tradition are beginning to realize that there are so many ways to skin a rat. So for instance, COVID, like Chairman mentioned, taught us that there are ways in which we can put ourselves out there without, strictly speaking, advertising. And yet, you are earning a reputation that attracts more clients and more business. Knowledge sharing. We live in a knowledge-based economy now. And anybody that recognizes that the fact that you have the training as a lawyer alone means that all sorts of doors are open to you, from writing articles and putting them in media where people can read them, to providing courses like Law Demi is doing, to organizing conferences like this, like Strictly Business of Law is doing. These are all avenues whereby you advertise yourself and attract business. These are all things that some people sat down and thought, how can I make more money for myself as a lawyer? If the courtrooms are saturated, if the boardrooms are saturated, what other things can I do to put myself out there to make money in the process? I'm a proud alumnus of Olaniwa Ajayi, and don't listen to anything this man says. He says, that's what you think. That's what we know. And you know why? Because when I was in Olaniwa Ajayi, we celebrated 43 years of existence. That was many years ago. We've done 60 now, 60 something, 62 years now. Now, Olaniwa Ajayi today is not what Olaniwa Ajayi started being. It was a traditional law firm run by the father of the current, he's not managing partner, the head of the firm now. It was a traditional law firm, maybe one man, sole practitioner, few rooms in Western House or something, right? Doing traditional law firm business. And he sent his son to law school, and his son went on to Cambridge and went on to Harvard, and then came back and transformed Olaniwa Ajayi from a sole practitionership to a firm that has almost 200 lawyers, has a managing director, has all sorts of offerings to clients. They continue to innovate and best themselves because somebody is thinking. All that that person has is the same thing we all have, a law degree. So these are all the ways in which we can get around, Busola, to your question, those strictures. In any event, one thing that those kinds of questions, right, suggest to me, and I'll end on this, is that a lot of times, you know, for people that earn our living from reading, we actually don't really read. Because if you do, you realize that the RPC actually doesn't prevent us from advertising in the way you think. It doesn't. If you read, and I will enjoin us all to read the provisions of the rules of professional conduct so that you know what you can and cannot do, and you will find out that there's so much you can do within the existing framework. So much. And this is what other people have done successfully. We only need to look around us and see. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you very much. And I think that was, I mean, a whole lot to digest. A whole lot to digest. Again, I want to, and I would want the other co-panelists to also give a shot at this question. How can we ensure that we build or we produce practice-ready lawyers? Because that's a tough one. And I'm doing recruitments, doing interviews, and you are seeing very excellent CVs. But when you start hearing what comes out of their mouth, you know, their thought process, their thinking pattern, you are wondering, how did this person, you know, pass through this rigorous law school that we keep talking about? What's, you know, and you have people who are really exceptionally, you know, brilliant. They have the first class 2-1. I said personally to myself that I would rather prefer to hire someone who has 2-2 or even third class. Because when you look at it, most times they are street smart. Because while they were in school, when I was in school, I was cooking. I ran catering business for over 10 years. So when I was in school, 100 level, I was cooking. My mates were in class having lectures. I was cooking. But do you know what that taught me? It taught me a whole lot of things. I can be a genius, but I've not been able to maybe maximize that aspect of my life. But I can call myself maybe an average student. I did well. I had like upper tutu, if there's anything like that. But I had a upper credit in my diploma in law. And that was because I was, studious. I was diligent. I wasn't doing any other thing. And then I was just wondering I could get into direct entry with this. But it didn't happen. So I told myself that I'm not just going to miss out, on another way. So yes, I have my diploma in law. I did very well. But can I also make money while, being in school? So when I was in school, my pocket money wasn't fantastic, but I was making money from other things. I was one of the first set of people that bought BlackBerry when it came out because of one single cooking transaction I got. So I'm saying that to say that there are a lot of people who are focused on, let me get the 2-1, the first class, so that I will get into the abouts of this world. But when it comes to, street smarts, when it comes to commercial awareness, being business savvy, you find that you have to start training and retooling them. So what can we do in terms of maybe our legal education curriculum, and not just in law school, but from the university, to ensure that we are producing practice-ready lawyers? People who are equipped with the right soft skills, mindset, and commercial acumen.
Okay, maybe I should go first. And please, whatever I say should not leave this room, because I'm about to share a personal and live example. So at Olanu Ajala.
So do you want us to?
No. I can, for the purpose of, at Olanu Ajala, we recruit people from whilst they're in law school. Focus on first class. Focus on first class and the rest of them. And I had to sit in an interview, and people who had double firsts, and for the life of me, I was trying to look for, I'm trying to be economical with my words, and I was disappointed. Double first class university, first class in law school, but these persons couldn't express themselves. It's a shame. But I'm telling you, point of fact, I sat in those interviews. Last week, law school graduated, 5,000 plus people were called to bar. These 5,000 plus persons have come into the market to engage with us. Maybe about 1,000 or 1,500 of them will set up shop the next day without any formal training. I've had cause to engage, as chair, I've had cause to engage law school to even complain about the quality of graduates, and I'm told that, they themselves are even struggling and they're even looking for lawyers to teach for free. And about 4 or 5 streams. So we keep on, we're running a mechanical shift. We're putting these kids through a factory. We put them in 8 months. They go in, they must write exams by December, they must get called to bar by November. They're not well baked, and it continues like that. So I don't have the solution, but somebody had said to me that perhaps we put a freeze on people admitted to study law. Put a freeze on admission, and let's fix the mess we are in, because we're in a big mess. Those 5,000 plus kids that were called to bar last Friday, where's the work for them? The economy is bad. But I found myself in that shoe in 2006 when I graduated from law school. Initially, I was posted to Ikorodu, and I said to myself, Ikorodu is not possible. By the way, eventually, I worked at Olubusola, so I've not always worked at Olanu Ajala. But I was deliberate. So I have painted a gory picture, but to let you know that there is hope. So I was deliberate, and I said to myself, I will spend 1 year in this law firm, And after 1 year, I will market myself everywhere, and I'll make sure I get to work in the best law firms in Lagos. So after my first 1 year, I sent my CV everywhere. Olubusola, Olubusola, I failed many. But every time I failed, I built on that failure. And I passed Olubusola Ajala interview. Not because I knew somebody, but because I had learned from my failures. I then passed. I then decided to be deliberate. Again, back when I was in uni, I wanted to make money, but I didn't know how. I went to AAU, and great effort to any AAU person here. I went to AAU. I wanted to make money, but I didn't know how. So I said to myself, I wanted to be a company secretary. But as at year 5, I had not done Nixon. So there was no direction. And I see that there are many young lawyers today, many graduates today who don't have any direction. They just want to make money, they don't know how. They will make this money. But here is the saving grace. Be deliberate. Craft for yourself a plan. Look, law school cannot solve all our problems. And like I was saying to somebody at that time, the man that started Flutterwave was somebody like you from a small room. Today, Flutterwave is bigger than 10 banks put together. But nothing says that you must make a living out of this law that you're studying. So I may be saying things, many things, but pick what applies to you from all of this rubbish I have said and see how you can stand out, because all of us can speak English. Well, that's not true anyway. Not all of us can speak English. So there are some lawyers that cannot speak English. And I ask myself, how are you able to even find yourself in a profession where you can't speak English? But that's another deficiency in the system. So find a way to be better than the next man out there. Because the system has failed us. But you cannot fail yourself. And you're not failing yourself. You need to be deliberate. You need to craft a plan for yourself. I need to follow through with that plan. So, Busola, I do hope I've answered your question. But to our colleagues out there, and in any, let me say this. And at the right time, so I'll stop being chairman by next week, and Uchenna will take over from me. I don't envy her. But to be honest, I have seen a lot. As chairman, I've seen lawyers say, chairman, please, help to pay school fees, help to pay house rent, help to pay salaries, and these are colleagues. So the question is, must we all be lawyers? I'll end it at that.
Okay, Busola, thank you very much for the question. And I'll say straight away, there are no easy answers to the multitude of questions that you have asked. But please, if somebody is brave enough in the audience to help me maybe translate this in a better way, the skies are wide enough for all the birds to fly without hitting each other. Does that make sense? Okay, good. Now, the point is that each bird has to take responsibility for how high or how low it decides to fly. And that is dependent on a combination of factors, the weight of the bird, wind speed, and so on and so forth. So it can fly low, it can fly high, it can fly somewhere in the middle. Without insulting anybody, just imagine that you are that bird, or you are a bird. My point is, I think it boils down to the choices we elect to make. The chair, and who am I to query the chair, has said it eloquently. The system has failed us. I wish I could contradict him and say, no, the system hasn't. But, I mean, I will be living in fool's paradise in that regard. But having said that, please, we have to live with the consequences of our choices. I have sat on several interviews for young and not so young lawyers in the last 5, 7, or 10 years. And by and large, the result has been disappointing for me, given my understanding of what the interview set out to achieve. And once I sat on an interview, and without disclosing to the person or the persons being interviewed. Afterwards, they were told to give a summary, a written summary of what they had just experienced. And the rationale behind it was simply that for a lawyer, aside your verbal skills with spoken English, it's almost as important, perhaps even more important, to test and determine your proficiency with writing English. Because everything we do as lawyers starts and ends with something in writing. Forget the medium by which such is done nowadays. It starts and ends with what is written. Now, as I said, I sat on this interview, and when the results came in, I wasn't sure these persons who responded in writing were the same persons that we went through, because, people just wrote. Now, given what I've described, it's not what somebody else can do for you, because you experienced it, I experienced it, other members of that panel experienced it. And what was the deficiency we noticed? Some people just decided to read law for reasons that you're just not sure about. Law practice, and that's what I'm most familiar with, it's good to have a good degree, or any degree. But that on its own is insufficient. I'm sorry if I'm saying that, but it's just insufficient. You need to have some additional skills, which I doubt very much that the Nigerian Law School is in a position to offer you. So, do you have the soft skills? Do you have the temperament? Do you have the outlook on life? I will express, in quote, a regret. Like many lawyers, I was trained to detest mathematics. And I'm sure I'm not the only one in this room saying something like this. So I'm in good company, as it were. I was maybe trained or just conditioned. I think a better word to describe it is conditioned to detest mathematics. And so studying law was a refuge away from mathematics. How wrong I was. And I'm sure I can speak, please do not be offended, how wrong you are if you are of that frame of mind. Because if you want to service any serious client, not necessarily the type Olaniwa Ajay do, but just any serious client, it could be a Nigerian, it could be a foreign client, you need some basic understanding of mathematics. Please, I am not revealing some divine truth. This is a professional truth. And so, if you want to embrace that outlook of law as a business, some of those things that we have indirectly been conditioned to believe is false. So please, today, if you, going forward, if you are of that mindset that mathematics is not for me, I cannot understand it, it is not for lawyers, please, you are dead wrong. And to make progress, you need to embrace mathematics. Now, some of us got turned off when we were told to go and look for X, and I'm sure they are still looking for X in mathematics. Yes, maybe I still don't know who or what that is. That's not the type I'm talking about. But basic financial literacy is necessary for you as a lawyer. Now, the kinds of choices you make is also important for you as a lawyer. Please start the way businessmen start to reason. A businessman looks at it this way, that there's a problem, in quotes. I have a solution. That's the way a businessman thinks. That problem could be anything. It could be that we need to make this in smaller bottles. That could be the problem that is identified. And he believes he has the solution. That's the way a businessman typically thinks. Now, for you as a lawyer, there's enough room. There are some lawyers who decide that, look, I am going to specialize in the lower courts. I'm not going to be doing charge and bail, but I'm going to specialize in the lower courts. And that's their specialty. They've left the big issues, the Federal High Court, the Court of Appeal. They're not interested in that. And they're damn good at it. That is a choice. It doesn't mean they are less of a lawyer, It doesn't mean they are better than I or worse than I am. It's just a choice that they have made. And please sit with it and make the best of it. Because you have solutions to offer. You may never have had to go to the magistrate court, but very many Nigerians, in fact, some empirical statistics indicate that the vast majority of Nigerians experience the judicial system at the lower court level, at the magistrate court, customary court. So in other words, there's a market, to use the language of a businessman, at the lower court. They seek those who can provide legal services at that level. So it's a choice. There are those who then, escalate it higher. Oh, I want to specialize in banking, I want to specialize in maritime, intellectual property, and so on. It's a choice. What I'm also saying is, even for those of our colleagues who have decided to go in-house, quite frankly, please, if I'm wrong, I'm happy to take objections to it. As a counsel in any serious organization, the highest you can go is as the company secretary with your LLB or LLM. However, if you aspire to go beyond that, you need much more qualification and certifications. There are so many of our colleagues in banks. There's a gentleman who is well known. I will elect not to mention his name. He's run one of Nigeria's leading banks for ages. He's retired, gone into some other things now. He's actually a graduate of University of Benin. But the zenith to which he got was not on the strength of his LLB. It was on the strength of additional qualifications that he had. So again, you choose where you decide to perch. We cannot expect a system like this to give us the very best. So the best that we are seeing now are more like the exceptions. I mean, let's break it down. Many lawyers struggle to write proper English. It's not a happy thing to say, but that is the reality we are facing. So you have to choose if that is the level you want to play at. If we change the curriculum of the law school cannot teach you English grammar. That's not their business. That is not their responsibility. So do we then go back to the university? Certainly not. That's not the responsibility of the university. Perhaps we'll go back to the secondary schools. Then it gives you a sense of the gravity of what we are dealing with. Please, I could ramble all day, so forgive me to stop here for now. Thank you.
Okay, let me just weigh in. If I were the Minister for Education in Nigeria, because the question that Busola asked was with respect to what can we do, and BC did touch on sitting in on interviews and all that. You see, it's unfortunate how we got here, but we really must tell ourselves some home truths. Well, we're just gisting, because none of us in this room really has any way in which we can do anything about it. But if we have, I beg your pardon? But until we have, even the MBA doesn't have any means by which we can do anything about it. It's really a policy thing. The truth is this. Let me start with where Mr. Jagbe left off, about deciding your own path, about being intentional. I said earlier on, I love that word, because that word intentional, if you write it down on a piece of paper and put it where you can see it every morning, honestly, the sky will not be your limit. It's transformative. If you just write the word intentional, if you don't take anything away from here, from what I say today, if you just write intentional on a piece of paper and put it where you can see it every day, it will transform your life. Think about it. If you cast your mind about 90% of world leaders have law degrees. I told you earlier on, it's too late to be poor. It's really late. And the difference between being poor and being successful is that word, intentional. Decide what you want to do. And you can get anywhere you want. Any world leader worth talking about has a law degree. I challenge anyone to prove me wrong. So it just goes to show that that law degree is a real stepping stone. And once you have that degree, right, really the world is your oyster. So take that away. But back to what Busola asked, and which BC touched on, because it's something that anyone who loves the profession really would be concerned about. Anyone who loves the profession would be concerned about. It's not popular, particularly for younger people, either people aspiring to the profession or having just entered the profession. Let me ask, how many people were just called in this last cohort? Put your hand up. Well, just one person? Okay, two people. How many people were called last year? 1 year post-call. Okay, so keep your hands up, please. Those of you that were just called and the last year, 2 years ago. Okay. Let me stop with you. Your law school experience, do you feel that it met your expectations? You do? Why do you think so? What tell me. Why did it meet your expectations?
Hold on. We get your mic to you. Okay. One house, please. Please, one house. Thank you.
Okay, personally for me, from Port Harcourt campus, we had a lecturer, Mr. Kanu, who was quite very intentional with us, and he put us through real life situations, and sometimes he just brings up some scenarios which feels kind of weird out of what we are discussing in class, but by the time we analyze all those scenarios, people who pay attention in class will actually get the most out of it. Then secondly, I was able to meet people from different walks of life and connect with other people. So what I would just say is, being in law school, I had some friends in law school that they were just focused on coming to class, going back into their room, sleep and read, go to library, they don't network with other people and all of that. Whereas there were some of us that we were quite unserious. We looked unserious on campus because we were always up and about and all of that. But to God be the glory, I graduated with.
Here you are. You see, maybe you are the wrong people to ask the question. We, the employers, we can see the gap. Oh, by the way, I have something for every young lawyer here that I want to give us. A little booklet that I did for New Wigs last week. And it has about 10 tips for life. I'll give it to you. And the first tip is mind the gap. Right? And mind the gap just simply means there's a huge gap between law school and practice. Busola said it. Most of you are not practice ready. In fact, all of you are not practice ready. And it's got nothing to do with your ability or your natural endowments. The truth of the matter, and I started out by saying, if I were the Minister for Education, honestly, I would overhaul the whole, or I would propose to overhaul the entire legal system, education, system of legal education. For one thing, we'll introduce financial literacy and professional ethics at university level. Because if we're talking about law being a business, if we're talking about law being a broad-based degree that can launch you into different directions, then it is at university that you should start knowing that. So alongside the law of tort and land law and so on and so forth, there would be compulsory electives, if there's anything like that. Since it's an elective, I don't know how it can be popular. But there will be electives that you'll be forced to take that teach you financial literacy. Because yes, it's true, most of us, Mr. Adabe said he was taught to detest maths. Me, I wasn't taught to detest maths, so I was afraid of it. I think I'm still afraid of maths today. So indeed, the law was a safe haven. We'll teach financial literacy. We'll teach the business of law and all the different possibilities that exist from studying law. We'll teach professional ethics because unfortunately, those 9 months, they don't really help to ingrain the traditions of the profession that made it attractive to many people in the first place. I talk to many young lawyers and want to do away with so many things. Why? Because you don't know why they came about in the first place. I was watching a debate, young lawyers debate, I think it was last year. Does the monk make the, the hood make the monk, or does the monk make the hood? And the people who argued against the hood were in the majority. Most young lawyers want to do away with the wig and gown. They won't fear us again, no. They will not fear us again. When we remove that wig and gown, we'll be exactly like every other person. They will not fear us again. You better shine your eye. That wig and gown, let it stay. The law. My daughter is a lawyer. Oh, my son, let me call my son, he's a lawyer. Everybody wants their child to be a lawyer. It's because of the wig and gown. Get real. So, we can't do away with that wig and gown, no. Me, I don't want to do away with the wig and gown. I want them to continue to fear me. Because like everybody has said, if they don't fear me, Google, ChatGPT, RVAI, they will become the law. So if I were the Minister for Education, that's what I would prescribe. Aside from the fact that I think that only people who really want to study law should study law. And therefore, I think law should be a second degree.
Absolutely agree.
I think law should be a second degree. Like most serious-minded jurisdictions, right? Study law as a second degree. Then, by the time, if you are intentional about studying law, after you study the first degree, you will study the second degree. I have a first degree in English. I really didn't want to go back to study law. I'd been hearing all my life, you are going to do law, you should be a lawyer, you should be a lawyer. But I didn't make the cutoff point, so I studied English. And then I got a job, and I was earning money, and I was very happy about it. And I was telling people, for those of us who speak Yoruba, I don't want to, so the word for, the word ka in Yoruba means count and means read. I said, I don't want to read anymore. I want to be counting money. But thank God for my mother. You are going to do law, and God bless her, because everything that I am professionally is because she insisted. And I'm very grateful to God that she's alive, and by the grace of God will be alive to see me reach the peak of this profession. Amen. Thank you very much. So, law should be a second degree. The curriculum at the university level should be changed to accommodate the changing trends. And then, I think we should scrap law school as it is currently constituted. I think law graduates should go into the field and then be taking the modules as ICANN, like the ICANN people do. It makes better lawyers. You understand what you're studying. Because you see, the gap between what we learn in university and what we learn in law school is so high. There were people, in my time, we didn't have this huge number of first-class graduates from the law school. For one major reason. In university, you are taught to write volumes. They ask a question, you have to go back in time. I'm writing blah, 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 blah. You use the IRAC rule. In law school, short answers, straight to the point. It's very difficult to shift. Nothing prepares you for that. So you had people who did very well in university making poor degrees in law school because they were not able to make that switch. And certainly when you come out, you don't know. So if you ask me, the greatest evidence that the law school is no longer fit for purpose is the fact that we have up to 250 people making first class. Yeah, and I don't say that to take anything away from anyone. It just shows it's not them, it's the course, it's the system. The system of study, the system of exam. Law school is not a test of your knowledge, it's a test of your memory. And those people who are able to read, and how does that help you in the real world? But I'm not the Minister for Education. So this is just, we're just just rambling. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma. I think a lot has been said. And when Mr. Makonjola talked about, his experience, I mean, that's something scary for me. But, I mean, maybe my last, my final words would be, now that we have all of this understanding of maybe the things we can do better in terms of policy, and I like the fact that you said we should think of, scrapping law school. In 2022, I was in Austria, and I just went to the law school there. I just wanted to see what the law faculty was like, and I was having a conversation with them, and I said, okay, so when you finish from the university, you go to law school? They said, no, this is law school. Now, we don't go to law school. This is law school. So we are learning everything from here, and, one house, please. And then in 5 years, or between 5 to 7 years, you can, finish your whole learning, and then you go to a law firm to then, take like an internship for over a period of 1 to 2 years before you come back to write your bar exam, and then you go back again before you get licensed. So you're not even writing your exam and you are getting licensed immediately. And by that license, mean license to start a law firm. But over here in Nigeria, you get called to bar today, you can start practicing tomorrow. So for me, I'm of the opinion that I think that privilege has to be institutionalized. And that's why, the CPD points, I know it's a different conversation. We are not, interested. Some of us are not happy. I'm here now, I'm getting a message saying that this is your conference. Does it have CPD points? And people asked me, and really we wanted to do it, but I thought to myself that I am an advocate for not breeding entitlements. So I said it's a free conference, and then I have to pay to get CPD points. I have to, register to be like your provider to get CPD. We're already getting value from the conference. It's free. So why do I have to give you? Work for the CPD points if you really desire it, and they are the free ones that you can go for. Fine, but that's not the point. The point is, how can we ensure that? I'm looking at, can we go back to institutionalizing pupillage such that you don't become a lawyer today and you start practicing?
Can I quickly answer that? And then there was something that I didn't say. Sorry to jump in on you. First of all, Busola, it would have been desirable, but unfortunately, the numbers are far more than the available firms. Even with the best of intentions, how many firms can take on the numbers? So that's why I said there needs to be a systemic rule. But the one point that I didn't make is this. Why must we insist that everybody goes to law school? Why can a lawyer who had done a law degree that has no desire to practice law in the way that going to law school requires, why does it have to be that there's some sort of deficiency because you don't have your BL? Law is now no longer that specialized degree. It's a stepping stone for going into all sorts of directions. And so we shouldn't, perhaps what needs to happen is that it should be an option. And there should be no deficiency for anyone who chooses not to go to law school. You are a lawyer, you are a lawyer. If you want to go into traditional legal practice, you have to have a BL. Just like if you want to practice arbitration, you should at least have MCIR, right? So if you want to go to court, get the BL. But if you don't want to go to court and you want to do other things, you're a lawyer. You're already a lawyer. That will significantly reduce the numbers that go. It's about the numbers, really. Because with the quantity, the quality has dropped. The law school teachers are tired. They're overwhelmed. They can't cope. And that's why a lot of things that in our time used to be such big deals, particularly the ethics. I think ethics is still that course that you can't pass law school if you don't pass ethics, right? But you see, when we went to law school, it was not just on paper. You really had to observe and obey those things. So things like your sleeves must be long. You can't show your wrists. Things like your hair, the kind of hair, you have to be very conservative and all that. Those things are not being, they're not being enforced or even talked much about. It's really just what you write. It wasn't the case back in the day, but you can't blame them. They're tired. 4 streams, so many people, it's not easy. So that's why I say the whole system needs an overhaul. So the fourth thing would be, not everybody has to go to law school, and you shouldn't suffer any deficiency from that.
Okay, my answer will be brief. I think what we're largely talking about is how to reimagine law practice. And it's good that we're generating a lot of very brilliant ideas here. Of course, it's clear that the fundamental issues go way beyond us here, but we still owe a duty to our profession to talk critically about these kinds of issues. Please, as a side point, Mr. Chair and the incoming chair, whenever we do talk about these kinds of issues at the MBA level, I think it's also helpful that we are not talking to ourselves, but also people like the Council of Legal Education and even consumers of legal services, because oftentimes we talk to ourselves as lawyers, we criticize ourselves, but we don't pay enough attention to how does the public even see how the kind of services we render and assess us. And trust me, if you've done any just random sampling of what the public thinks about us, it can be quite revealing. Let us leave it at that. On a wider level is that this is an ongoing conversation. I would rather not repeat what Mrs. B has so eloquently stated. And just for those who know, Mrs. B will be, by the grace of God, be adding an additional title to her name before the end of the year. We'll be there to raise a glass in that respect. And hopefully I'm using that as a pointer to the kinds of choices that we have to make as young and not so young lawyers. If I can cite a personal example of mine, when I was at the law school, I didn't know, I had heard of lawyers in Lagos. Of course, I lived in Lagos, but I didn't know anybody in that respect. The names that were all over the place then, of course, were Chief F.R.A. Williams, but he was a larger-than-life character, both in literally and otherwise. So who am I? I mean, I just couldn't imagine how I could meet up with him. So I did something that came easy to me, very easy to me. Back in the day, we used to have law school journals. I don't know if they still do publish journals now in the law school. And those were well-written publications. So the man so I should give it away, who later became my first employer, he wrote something in the journal then. Now, what did I know? I was a bloody, please forgive my French, I was a bloody law school student, just wet behind the ears, didn't know much, but I thought I knew much more than I actually did. So I wrote the gentleman, and I think he was indulgent. Again, that is telling of his view of life. He was very indulgent because it was clear that I was a law school student. I made it known there. But what piqued his curiosity was, if you like, maybe the audacity of, who is this fellow, by the way? So anyway, he indulged me and asked me to come see him anytime I was free. So, being the kind of person I was, out of all the things I could have done on the day of going to visit somebody who eventually became my employer, I wore native, I wore Ankara, I wore something that was just off. I didn't know I was so off. He told me much later on. Anyway, again, he was indulgent enough to hear me out and not look at the way I was dressed. And maybe I made an impression. So he didn't offer me a job, but he held a door open, which I could see. Please, so behind this autobiography of mine is be intentional. I didn't know where I was going then, but I had an idea, a very rough idea. And I got a job with the gentleman. He's an SAN now, well into middle age. I see him, he sees me, we talk. You know, he's more like an older friend for me now. The point I'm making is, please have a plan, because the system is not primed to deliver optimum results for you, for me. Can we talk about the judicial system? What can I say about it that you do not know or you haven't heard? So perhaps you can look at this as making the best out of a not so good situation. Do not leave your fate to chance. It never goes well for you. You have to, as Mrs. B has said, you have to be deliberate. You may not know the end result yet. You may not know the end result. You may not know where fortune, where fate, providence will take you. But at least know where you are and have some hazy idea. And lastly, if you are indeed invited to an office, don't go there in Ankara as I did.
So, Mrs. B and Mr. Jagbe have spoken so eloquently about things that can be done. So, I really have not much to add. But to say that on a general note, and again, speaking from what I have seen, so it's easy for us to talk about our colleagues who have just been called to bar, talk about the fact that what they are taught in uni has no correlation with what they are taught in law school, and that doesn't have any correlation with what is in practice. But even our colleagues who are in practice, who are so badly behaved, we have no manners, we have this sense of entitlement as lawyers, we have no respect, thank you. And so there's a lot of things that are wrong with us, but if there's one thing that we want to do, and we should begin to do it now, is let's begin to reorientate ourselves. So whether you're a young lawyer, or you're a senior lawyer, or you're an intermediate lawyer, or an old lawyer, let's begin to reorientate ourselves. Someone like me, the only thing I can do is to talk in court. So unlike some other people, okay, you have a side also, you can cook, you can do stuff. I have no side also, I can't do any other thing. Other than, so I have no choice, this profession must work. And so my plea to all of us is wherever you find yourself, whether as a young lawyer, as a lecturer in law school, as a business person, as an academician, let's just make this profession work. And my plea is to all of us, wherever we find ourselves. And that will be my last words. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I've been told that I should round up. So I think this is a very good way to round this session up. We have all heard, and permit me to say that we all have a role to play in all of this. Because when we go back to our respective practice, your respective homes, or, what do you do? How do you project yourself as a lawyer? What are the things you do? What are the ethics of the profession that you do not even uphold? Because one person is enough. One person doing it right is not enough when we have several other people who are doing it badly. So we need to ensure that when there are conversations and people come to my DM to say, Busola, your lawyers, that issue of conference we had in 1 year like that, there were a whole lot of issues. And people started reaching out to me because they know that I'm a lawyer. And I said, I'm sorry, I don't watch our dirty linen outside, so I'm not going to have this conversation with you. So people already know that when you are talking about lawyers or you are bashing lawyers, you won't see me doing that. But I can go to SLB community and say, see, if you're a community member, this community member, if you go and do anything like this, and I'm very grateful that community members uphold the ethics of the profession. We don't, so it's very, very important. So I won't go out and wash our dirty linen outside, but amongst us like this, we can have the conversation. But again, when you are all by yourself, when no one is watching, what are you doing to either pull the profession, to push the profession up or pull it down? What are you doing? We all have a role to play. We are all stakeholders. And I think that's how I want us to end this session. Thank you everyone for listening, and thank you very much to my panelists. We have a short presentation, a gift for Mrs. B. I'm sorry to our other panelists, but we have a presentation for Mrs. B. So just appreciate. Yes. So I'd like to thank you, ma'am, in recognition of your invaluable contribution as a panelist at the Business of Law Conference 2025. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for this. Thank you so much. And thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Jagbe. Thank you very much. So can we have... So at this point, I would like to say, please, can we project the, you can take your seat. If you'd like to join SLB community, can I see a show of hand? Like you're interested in joining our community. You're not interested? Okay, so if you're interested in joining the community, we have a giveaway for you for today, just for today, and because it's my birthday. So I'm doing, and it's TBOLC 7.0. So we are doing a TBOLC 7.0 giveaway. Annual subscription is 100,000 naira. I mean, and the 100,000 naira is really low for the kind of value you get. There's peer-to-peer learning session on a bi-weekly basis, and then there's also the monthly experts webinar where you can have, an expert. You can tell us the topic you are interested in, and then we'll bring an expert. Chairperson, we need your attention, ma'am. Chairperson. So where we can have, so we have expert learning session bi-monthly, and you can tell us the topic you want us to bring an expert to teach or train us on. So if you're interested in joining the community, please, media, can you project, media, OC, please can you project the link to join the community? So if you scan this QR code, it takes you straight to how you make payments, and it brings you straight to the community. It's automated. We are that tech savvy. We have our CTO here, Faith Obafemi. She just came from UK few days, just 2 days ago for the conference, and then to just also rest. So you can scan the QR code to join the community. If you are joining today, you get a 30,000 naira discount. So you are coming in at 70,000 naira, right? That's 7.0, right? But after today, it goes back to 100,000 naira. So if you are right here now and you want to join, this is your queue to join in. You're paying just 70,000 naira for a whole year, and your year starts from today, right? So not just the rest of the year. Your year starts from today until next year. So there's a whole lot of learning. If you love what you have seen today, this is just, they're saying this is just the tip of the iceberg, because there's a whole lot more that you can learn from the community. So I hand over back to our compare, and she blows us away.
All right. Once again, can you please put hands together for a convener, please? So we are gradually coming to the end of today's conference. And I believe that we've learned a lot of things, and there are a lot of things that we'll be doing differently. Now, if you're a new wig, can you please rise? New wig, stand up now. You're not a wig at all. Intending wig. Stand up, stand up. Intending wig, stand up, rise. New wigs, intending. Please put your hands together for them. Let them feel welcome. Let them keep on clapping for them. So on behalf of Mrs. B, on behalf of Miss, until I give it to every one of them. Don't stop clapping. Don't stop clapping. Don't stop clapping. Keep on clapping. Keep on clapping. Make it louder. Make it more robust. Can you please let me pass it on? Okay. All right. There you go. This is for you. This is for you. Can we all say thank you, Mrs. B? It's not loud enough. Make it louder. Blow the roof off. Because it takes a person with a large heart, someone that wants to see you grow, and a mother at heart as well. So can we please celebrate her one more time? All right, congratulations to you. What you have in your hand is going to help you and make your journey much more effective. Do you believe that? All right. So do we have... Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Once again, can we please celebrate them one more time? All right. Okay, so if you are 1 year in practice, can you stand? Do like this. Excuse. Do like this. Do like this. All is well. All is well. So if it's your first year as a lawyer, stand up. Okay. First year, second, bros. Excuse, bros. Stop it. Okay, 1 to 5, stand up. People should say thank you to Mrs. B. To sit down and write book. It's not easy. With all her titles, it's not easy. Give to the lady at the back. Stand up, stand up, stand up. Yes. Everybody say thank you, Mrs. B. God bless you, Mrs. B. Okay, just before we wrap up, one of the things that have been highlighted, excuse me, we will network later. We will network. Don't worry. Just relax. Okay, one of the things that have been highlighted in the course of today's event is, beyond understanding the business of law and what have you, you need to understand how to network. And one of us here today has written a book in that regard, and she'll be sharing with us shortly. So ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Olubusola Ajala. Can you please celebrate? She is a very fine author and a lawyer. That's why she's wearing coat of many colors, so that you can see her properly. So over to you, ma'am. You have just 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daddy. Thank you so much, Mrs. B. Yes, ma'am. So today there's a word that kept reverberating all through the sessions. Networking. Network with, get customers, get clients by networking and all of that. But how many of us usually find ourselves lost? Because it just ends at your network is your net worth. But then, where do we go from here? So it's about moving from that knowledge to reality. And I wrote this book, it's been over a year now, because I was at that point where I realized how much networking has actually helped me as a lawyer in building my practice. Now it's a limited partnership law firm. The law firm just produced the next chairman of MBA Lagos. We're doing so many things, even beyond, the politics. We are having clients all around the world. We're having firms, we're having we're having branches in Abuja, Lagos, everywhere. How did I move from someone that didn't have any clients at all to someone that now has all of that, and we are still growing? We have a long way to go. It was by networking. And so I decided to pen down all my experiences. So this book has a lot of storytelling, my personal journeys of people that I've seen around me on how to actually network effectively, the principles. It doesn't matter if you're an introvert or an extrovert. What matters is the principles and how to go about, utilizing these principles to work for you in your own unique field. And that's why I have this book. Some of you already have a copy of it out there. But if you don't, please step out. You have an opportunity to get a discount if you are right here getting this book. It's 10,000 naira, but you get it for 8,000 if you get it outside. So if you go out, you meet a lovely lady out there to get you a copy. So if you have further questions, let me know. But I hope you leave this place with a copy of this book. Talk about learning, building your soft skills. Networking skill is a very important tool for you to have as a lawyer. And I hope you get a copy of this. Thank you.
Can we put our hands together for author Madam Olubusola? Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. But please let us ensure that we get a copy. It is a vital tool in your skill as a lawyer. It's very important to know how to network. Beyond taking on numbers, how do you follow up? How do you then water the relationship? How do you build the relationship? Very importantly. So at this point, we will now draw the curtains on the 7th edition of the Business of Law Conference. Thank you so much. You have been an amazing, phenomenal audience. And just before we wrap up with our anthem, how many of us are ready to sing our anthem again? Are you ready to sing our anthem again? But just before that, it's been a pleasure. My name is Olubusola Ajala. I'm a media personality, a communications executive, and a voiceover talent, and a TV host, by the way. It's been a honor serving as a master of ceremonies. I didn't do this alone. I had TT Ishaya. She's somewhere outside. She's a brilliant legal mind. Thank you for having me for the 7th edition. BA, God bless you. And with this, I say good night and God bless you. All right. I have decided to be alone. Okay. Are you sure?